do you think other Democrats are watching their words?
I think it's certainly possible, but I'm not sure. I mean, I cannot think of or point to any individuals who have said that. I do think that there are Democratic members of Congress who are preparing for that possibility.
How do they prepare?
I think they look to the possibility of litigation. I think they're saying, do we have the best teams possible in order to carry out our work?
Some Republican, or many perhaps, will be watching this, listening to this, and thinking, wait a minute, actually, you're the ones who are prosecuting us. You were the guys who are weaponizing the Justice Department. How would you respond to somebody who may be thinking that?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, better known as AOC, unexpectedly came under scrutiny on NPR of all places. What started as a light, almost friendly conversation quickly turned into a sharp, full-blown debate. Many listeners expected the usual, her passionate defense of democracy and familiar political messaging. Instead, the tone shifted, catching both AOC and the audience off guard as the discussion became more challenging and pointed than anyone anticipated.
Interested if you or your fellow Democrats are at all feeling intimidated or silenced or anything.
I'm not. I think it's important to call this administration's bluff. I think that this is what authoritarians do. I think this is what kleptocracies do. I believe that this is what corrupt administrations do. They rely on the illusion of power, on the suggestion of coercion in order to try to get people to comply in advance. And I think that one of our largest responsibilities is to not comply in advance. If they want to do these things, they can go ahead and do them and let the American people see.
AOC came in ready to talk about standing against authoritarianism, but NPR quickly shifted gears. What began as polite small talk turned into pointed, challenging questions about how the Democratic Party manages the legal system and handles immigration. The surprising part wasn't the questions themselves, it was who was asking them. NPR isn't typically known for pressing Democrats this directly. It usually has a more friendly, conversational tone. This time, though, they didn't hold back. The hosts pushed her on whether the Democratic Party truly influences the legal system, introducing an unexpected edge to the discussion. The interview caught AOC off guard, showing a side of NPR rarely seen, where questions were direct, probing, and far from the usual light, supportive style.
Republican, or many perhaps, will be watching this, listening to this, and thinking, wait a minute, actually, you're the ones who are prosecuting us. You were the guys who are weaponizing the Justice Department. How would you respond to somebody who may be thinking that?
In what way? In what way? Is the very presence
Putting Trump on trial would be their example, I suppose.
Yes. I mean, here's the deal. In the United States, there is a jury where we are judged by our peers, and he was found guilty in court on 34 felony charges. If people want to say it was weaponized, I mean, it is hard pressed to say that there's a partisan argument.
AOC faced a level of scrutiny she clearly wasn't used to in that kind of setting. Watching her work to maintain her composure was surprisingly engaging. Both supporters and critics seemed caught off guard by the sudden shift in tone. This wasn't your typical predictable political interview. The moment felt bigger than standard news coverage. It could even affect how comfortable Democrats feel entering usually friendly spaces like NPR in the future. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's NPR interview was compelling, but it carried the unmistakable feel of someone being asked questions they didn't anticipate. Usually AOC projects confidence, delivering polished talking points that energize her base. This time, the energy was noticeably different. NPR, often seen as a progressive platform, wasn't holding back. What began as a routine conversation about Democratic concerns during the Trump era suddenly changed. NPR started pressing her on whether Democrats might be mishandling the legal system, a bold move for a network rarely challenging its own side. For viewers, this unexpected shift made the interview stand out. It's a reminder that even familiar outlets can surprise, and even confident politicians can be tested. Moments like these show the value of asking tough, unanticipated questions and seeing how leaders respond under pressure.
To what extent is immigration as an issue part of your problem with working class voters?
I mean, I guess my question would be what does the word problem mean?
People voting for the other side and not for you.
Yeah.
Feeling that Democrats are not serious about the issue in ways that concern them.
I think that we have a problem on immigration because of the lack of progress that we've had on this issue. And as we know, Republicans weaponized that lack of progress. Of course, there was famously a bipartisan bill last year that the Republican majority in the Senate and also in the House were willing to pass. President Biden was willing to work with them on it. And Donald Trump said, do not.
What started as a friendly interview quickly turned into a real-time challenge for AOC. It was clear she realized the conversation wasn't going the way she had planned, and she worked hard to maintain her composure under pressure. Then came the pivotal moment. The host gently pointed out that real voters, not political strategists, felt Democrats weren't taking immigration seriously. You might expect AOC to respond with a sharp, rehearsed answer. Instead, she pivoted, shifting blame toward Republicans, arguing that Trump had discouraged cooperation and insisting Democrats had made genuine efforts to address the issue. But even as she spoke, the weight of the immigration crisis hung in the room. Passing responsibility back and forth didn't fully address the underlying problem. The question remained, was immigration truly a top priority, and why had it reached such a critical point in the first place? The moment highlighted the tension between political messaging and real-world accountability, leaving viewers to grapple with an unresolved and pressing issue.
Why do you think this issue did seem to be a political loser for Democrats among key groups and key constituencies, if what you say is true?
I think that a lack of a path to citizenship in the United States, the lack of addressing comprehensive immigration reform creates a large population of undocumented people in the United States. And that is allowed to be weaponized in many ways. We have a large population of undocumented people in the United States. Overwhelmingly, it is not because they crossed the southern border of the United States. It's because they came here in a documented fashion and overstayed a visa.
Sure.
And became undocumented. And it is the lack of ability for us to expand paths to citizenship, modernize paths to citizenship over decades that create this.
AOC faced a test of control, especially given that Democrats had the power to make real changes. The NPR anchor framed the situation in terms of tangible, real-world consequences, small communities under strain, and a surge at the border that couldn't be ignored. Was AOC caught off guard by hearing it presented this way? Absolutely. NPR didn't stop there. They pressed further, asking why, despite years of Democratic promises, the situation kept worsening both politically and practically. AOC's response focused on the lack of clear pathways to citizenship, describing it as a structural roadblock at the heart of the problem. What made this moment particularly striking was how plainly it highlighted questions many Americans have likely asked themselves, but rarely hear spoken aloud. This wasn't about plans, promises, or intentions anymore. It was about real results and the visible consequences of actions taken or left unaddressed by those in power.
Do you think there is a real risk of lawmakers being investigated, charged, arrested?
Potentially. I mean, we see that this administration is certainly wielding that threat, and we will have to see if they intend on carrying out their threats, if they are to be believed for what they are publicly suggesting, then the answer would be yes. But we will only find out if we call their bluff.
Do you think other Democrats are watching their words?
I think it's certainly possible, but I'm not sure. I mean, I cannot think of or point to any individuals who have said that. I do think that there are Democratic members of Congress who are preparing.
As the questions kept coming, AOC struggled to keep pace, and her discomfort became hard to miss. Many Americans have likely wondered the same things quietly, but these questions are often drowned out by political talking points and noise. This time they were asked out loud. The NPR host pressed further. What are the real solutions to immigration beyond just criticizing past policies? At that point, an unexpected moment of vulnerability surfaced. AOC leaned into her familiar argument that Republicans use immigration as a political weapon. It's a line we've all heard before, but this time it didn't land as usual. Instead, it highlighted a bigger issue, the Democrats' own role in a system where responsibility is shared. As the questioning intensified, cracks began to appear. Simply blaming Republicans wasn't enough anymore. AOC had to confront her party's shortcomings and acknowledge its place in the ongoing, deeply divisive immigration debate. Then the host shifted again, asking why so many Americans struggle to connect with Democrats' messages of compassion and solutions. In that moment, like many politicians facing pressure, AOC reverted to familiar talking points in an effort to regain footing, revealing both the limits and challenges of standard political responses under scrutiny.
That, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally.
Mm-hmm.
Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents. Yeah.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry, and are you going to do it?
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their.
AOC spent much of the interview pointing at the opposition while retreating to safer ground, without fully addressing how that approach might affect voter trust. By the time the conversation ended, one thing was clear: she had just faced a media outlet uninterested in political courtesy. This exchange felt significant, hinting at a possible shift toward a new kind of journalism, one where inconsistencies are highlighted and no one receives a free pass. So what do you think? Did NPR do its job, or was this bias playing out in real time? Share your thoughts in the comments. How did it feel watching this unexpected moment of political drama unfold?
Are allowed to weaponize.
And you have voters in places like Arizona, which is a swing state that Democrats lost, or Colorado, which is generally a blue state, saying there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of lawlessness.
Yes.
I don't know what to do here. Who's looking out after me?
And I think when that is paired with divestment from the social safety net, when that is paired with lack of progress on minimum wage, when that is paired with rising costs of living, it sets the stage for a strong man to point to any marginalized group and say it's